The Irrational Confidence Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it is finally here. It's week 10. My favorite, man. Gotta sit back and watch Varsity Blues. It's that time to do that again. I'm joined by my co-host, the man, while out in Vegas, met a French man wearing sandals. Haps Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
Haps doing great. Vegas is a lot of fun. It was an emotional roller coaster as it always is. But I think that's a microcosm of the current state of college football, and especially the college coaching carousel that we're really just starting to heat up. All in all, it's Georgia Florida week. Really excited about the cocktail party on Saturday and a bunch of other great games we have on the slate.
Yeah, you'll be at Georgia, Florida this weekend, so that'll be an interesting time. So make sure you're following Fresh on social media, SS2 Fresh. Make sure you're following him so you can check out Georgia, Florida, one of the best rivalry games, one of the more fun tailgates I've ever been to. Possibly the most fun. I don't know. It looks like a zombie apocalypse once the game starts out in the tailgate area. That was an interesting experience for me, but yeah, fun tailgate time. Good times.
Shenanigans all across the board.
All right, Fresh, let's get to rolling here. Let's start at our noon kickoffs in that realm. Listen, we tagged this game as one of the biggest games early on the season. As you said, the craziness of the 2025 college football season has kind of had a different idea on how important this game is. I still say it's a big game because I think there's talent on the Penn State side. The Nittany Lions, they're traveling to Columbus, Ohio to face the Buckeyes. This is a game we circled for James Franklin. They has to win. Well, James Franklin's no longer the coach out there. Right now, time of record, Ohio State is a 20.5-point favorite. Over-under in this game, 43.5. I don't think they're expecting Penn State to score a whole lot here. Fresh, Ohio State's rolling teams. They're coming off a bye. I think they got a little extra juice with Jim Knowles staying over there as the defensive coordinator for Penn State. Let's talk with this, though. There's talent on the Penn State side. There are good players that are on there. There is a little bit questions on some things with it, but they've had over a week to prepare. There's still guys who are going to play on Sunday on this Penn State roster. What do we need to see out of Penn State? I don't necessarily know if we can talk about Penn State winning this game, but what do we need to see out of Penn State?
No, it's going to be an absolute beatdown. Ohio State's going to put it down. What I want to see from Penn State, though, is show me some fire. Because there was zero fire versus UCLA, zero fire versus Northwestern. Iowa lost. Like, the team just looks defeated. The locker room's in shambles. Drew obviously getting hit, or losing Drew Allard. But even then, where was the Drew Allard that everyone thought was out there? Didn't even show up all this season. They don't use their running backs correctly. The defense was a sieve. Show me some passion. Show me some pride. Cool runnings. Just give me that cheer. Give me some dig deep power, passion, fire. Like, feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. Give me something. It's time for Penn State football to you have nothing else to lose. Your season's already in shambles. Bowl eligibility is already on the fritz. You can't come out and just give me something. If you don't get amped and juiced to play Ohio State with nothing to lose and have a chance to pull off an upset and not gonna say ruin their season, but tarnish it a little bit, you have to show up on Saturday. It's been abysmal, and if you want to make an impression with whoever that new head coach is going to be, you need to show up on Saturday afternoon. But in the end, this is going to be an Ohio State has a chance. Ryan Day has a chance to put the foot down on a rival because he doesn't blow out Penn State when they play. They're not beating them down pretty good. This is a chance to really flex muscle and show recruits there's no reason to be going to Happy Valley. I don't care who the new coach will be. I run the show here in the Big Ten.
What do you want to see out of Ohio State this weekend? I mean, outside of a beatdown, something more specific. Like, they've looked amazing through 7 weeks.
Been good in every facet. There's nothing else I want to see from it. It's not going to matter. What they do on Saturday, they just have to win and dominate. They're not looking for anything specific because who cares? They're going to be playing for the Big Ten. They're going to be playing. They're already locked in a spot. What they show versus Penn State, the only thing that would really alarm me is if they go out there and lay an egg. Just do your stuff. Put the blinders on. Stay focused. Just run right through Penn State and move on to the next week. There's nothing you have to show me. You've been playing efficient football all year long. The playoffs is really what you're going to be challenged and what you're going to be. A Big Ten title game is not where you're going to be measuring stick. Ohio State in the playoff is what actually is going to be the measuring stick. The rest of that is just, we get through it. We get there, stay focused, and then do our damage when January and December.
Two things I'm looking for in this game. Establishing a very potent run game in this one. I think you could really line up and smack Penn State in the mouth, showing that you can run the football against them. I love what I've seen so far from Bo Jackson, but I'd love to see a little bit more from him. One of those games where even if you're spelling running backs, you're running 3-4 guys in this game, you're at that point where guys have 60, 70 yards by halftime. You have that one guy who's really putting the ground game in for work and just kind of dominating in those trenches there. Other thing too, I want to see from Ohio State, it's not something we see a ton of them. Turnovers. Force some more turnovers on the defensive side. That defense, it's like the one last nit you could pick with them. They have a great run defense. They pressure the quarterback. They just haven't forced a ton of turnovers here. I'd love to see them get a couple of interceptions in this football game. For me, though, with Penn State here fresh, this reminds me of the old Saturday Night Live skit back in the early 90s with Patrick Swayze and Chris Farley auditioning for Chippendale Dancers. Chris Farley is Penn State. And while his dancing was good, the body is so bad. As they say in the skit, you may be attracted to our larger female population at Chippendales, but they decided to go with Patrick Swayze, who was in his prime in the early 90s there. That's the Ohio State Buckeyes there. That was kind of the image that I had of the two teams was the Saturday Night Live skit right there. One of my favorite skits of all time.
They're both technically football teams, but
yes.
One is much more qualified to be elite, and the other one is attracted to a limited population of people.
Right.
Not best.
Really, it's anyone who went to Penn State right now. I think most people are
fed up.
Yeah, I think the other people who just live in Pennsylvania might be jumping on the Pitt bandwagon or maybe go down into Virginia.
Well, if it's Penn State, it's wrestling season now? Football is terrible. Basketball, it's wrestling season right now for the Nittany Lions.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. Let's go to another game this weekend. I'm actually intrigued on your thoughts on this one because on paper, this screams Red River all over again to me on paper. But I think Vandy has done a great job of proving the doubters wrong this year. I got to give Vandy a lot of credit. Although I'm waiting for them to have this marquee big time win that I feel yes, I feel really great about. I like their wins. I'm waiting for them to have one of those wins that you're yes, that's it. That's the reason why we need to put you up on a pedestal. It's right there. Vanderbilt is going to Austin, Texas. And right now, even with Arch's suffered a concussion last week against Mississippi State, he's day-to-day. There's not recording early in the week, so obviously Texas isn't going to put out any information yet about whether or not he's going to play. Texas is still a 2.5-point favorite in this game. Over-under set at 45.5. Again, can Texas do what no one else has been able to do? Can they stop Diego Papi?
Well, I'll take a look at this game. The Vanderbilt, coming off that first top 10 wins with 1948, showed a lot of grit. They showed a lot of toughness, even though they weren't perfect versus Missouri. Missouri kind of crapped the bed. You lose your quarterback. You also did, you got stopped on fourth down. You should have kicked the field goal at the 4-yard line. Missouri gave that game away more than Vanderbilt won it, in my opinion. But Vanderbilt was tougher for the full 60 minutes. So they were resilient. They didn't come out there and look crisp or clean anywhere else. They were in a fight. But Missouri kind of mucked it up. Watching the game, paying attention to it, they were seeing the opportunities that Missouri either had their quarterback get knocked out or just not finishing drives, settling for a field goal in the red zone on not getting a touchdown, getting stopped on fourth down. If they played a better team, was Vanderbilt going to win that game? And I was probably going to say no. They just got very lucky. And honestly, if Trabula had stayed in the ball game, I think Missouri finds a way to win because the back quarterback was just sort of thrown in there and had to try to execute. It's emotional wave more for Vanderbilt. I was just in Vegas last week. You're enjoying the experience and the emotions are there, but at some point, when is that flow going to happen? You've been ebbing, but when's that flow going to happen with that emotional and that adrenaline? How many of these games can Vanderbilt keep getting up for and playing at a high level? Going on the road to a wounded animal, if you will, in Texas, who looked like absolute garbage for the majority of the game versus Mississippi State and for most of the entire year, for that matter, and somehow survived Starkville and that with a great fourth quarter comeback. Arch is now in question with his concussion. It seems like they're on the playoff hopes are on the line right now for Texas, and they're more desperate than is Vanderbilt, who has shown they can actually win the big game. I think that right there as a home game, early kick. Well, for them, it's all 11 a.m. Central. There's no real difference for them. Both having this Texas team come in, you survive Starkville, you have a little emotional roller coaster coming up. It's either rally around the backup or does Arch just buck up and make some throws? He's actually made some better throws lately. He hasn't been elite. He hasn't been great, but he's shown improvement. But that offensive line is still terrible. But if they can play with an emotional high, especially on defense, and contain, I mean, this is the game where that Texas defense, that speed, can run down Pavia. That defensive line can match the line of scrimmage, the offensive line for Vanderbilt, and sort of own the trenches. They're going to have to win this game tough. You have to bring your lunch pail. They're going to have to be in a blue collar mentality. There's no flash in the pan. Just come out there and be ready for a brawl for 60 minutes. And if you can, and all that depth and all the recruiting they've done on the defensive line over the past 2 years can show up, they have a chance. But they're going to have to be ready to hit. There's not going to be this cakewalk fancy party in Austin. You've got to get in there and knock people in the mouth. Offensively, Vanderbilt does not have the weapons to get in a high-profile shootout game. We saw with that, they have to play it tough. They have to be slow on their own terms, slow it down, grind it out, long drives, set up for touchdowns, kill the clock, and play a physical brand. They cannot come from behind. If you could jump them early, you put that offense in a spot where they're not comfortable. Yeah, Pavia can run around, but they don't have the receiving core that's going to be able to set it up in 3-4 wide and dominate. They play a much more 12 and 13 personnel. So you have to be able to be prepared for a fight, but if you could jump them early, you can turn the entire tide of the ball game. I think this is the kind of game where Texas wins. Mention the Red Rival, Red River situation. They're wounded, they're desperate. They know they have to play for their playoff lives because people are already seeing that brand of football, and they're kind of very suspect. Like, yeah, but 2 loss for Texas, it puts them in that 2 loss or like a 9-3 team better where they jump them. So you have to keep winning. And you have a chance of being a top 10 team. You have to come in there and take it down. Being at home will give this team a boost. And I think Arch or the backup have to play within the system. Sark, you need to coach your boys up and be ready to be tough. Look at the games you played last year. When you played Georgia twice, you weren't tough enough. The team was getting beat line of scrimmage. They weren't tough enough. Weren't to grind it out. That brings me to the point here. If your offensive line sucks in pass pro, run the ball. Help your quarterback out. Let your offensive linemen lean on their D-line, wear them out, and run the football. You have your stable of backs. Spare your defense and grind it out. That's what I want to see from Texas. I don't need you to see putting 3 or 4 receivers on the field and throwing it 50 times. I don't care. Right now, you shouldn't have to worry about Arch's draft status or Heisman campaign or a legacy. A legacy should be wins and losses, and that means Texas needs to start running the football. In the end, I think Texas takes care of business and they win. There's too many emotional games for Vanderbilt to keep getting up for, and at some point that is going to wear on you. And I just think Texas right now, they dodged their bullet last week in Starkville, and I think that gives them a chance to get boosted and ride a wave and beat Vanderbilt on Saturday.
Man, Texas is like the ex-girlfriend who just won't leave you alone, man. I think that's how college football fans should look at Texas, is they just keep coming back, and you kind of want to believe Texas is back. Because we've had this conversation since this podcast has kicked off here, Fresh, for the last 5 years, that we've always been waiting for Texas to officially become, quote unquote, back. And we said over the last 2 years, like, okay, this is officially back. They've made the college football playoff in a 4-team format. They made it in a 12-team format there. They won a football game in the 12-team format last year. And now, like, with how this season is rolled out, it's just kind of tumbled and tumbled and tumbled. And then they win a couple games, and everyone's like, okay, look, it's just those games. And you're like, okay, didn't rack up 2 credit cards worth of Amazon packages. Changed. I've only racked up 1 credit card of Amazon packages here. I'm going to throw some out here. Arch is the problem. Again, he was anointed. He was anointed going into the season, not by us, and again, it's not Arch's fault. He didn't sit there and put the crown on his head and say, I'm the best player in college football. Kid kept a pretty low profile. It was the media. It was everyone who does this stuff, who talks about college football. They talked about how great Arch Manning was and how he's going to be this great savior for Texas. Texas fans bought into it. They spent all this money in NIL to put together this roster. And our producer, Drew, brought it up to me and you over the summer. He said, if Arch was so great, why didn't he beat out Quinn Ewers? And Quinn Ewers went out with an injury last year. He played in mop-up duty. And it could have been very easy for Sark to say, hey, Ewers is hurt. We're going to keep with him. If Manning can't go, and it's Matthew Caldwell, and I looked him up here while you were going through your Fresh. Caldwell was the starter at Troy last year. It has some fairly good statistics. Troy wasn't overly successful. Again, we don't necessarily know if it's a product of the quarterback at a program like Troy. Was Caldwell a better player, made them slightly better around him? Like that would have been a worse team than what they were. Now he's playing with Ryan Wingo and Weisner and stuff like that. Does he perform a little bit better? Sign me up for that. Like, I want that level of Texas drama because it's going to, one, I'm going to be selfish here, Fresh, and it's going to provide us with great content. If me and you get to sit here and talk like Caldwell goes out, throws for 325, 3 touchdowns, and Texas completely smacks Vanderbilt in the mouth. One sad thing about that is I think that would torpedo Vanderbilt's playoff chances pretty quickly. Second thing, it would be a little annoying that we'd probably have to see, Texas, the talent is there. We have to hear about them, which I still don't think Texas is a playoff team, regardless if they only have 2 losses. I don't care. They haven't looked good. They don't pass the eye test. But sign me up for a college quarterback controversy any day of the week. I got Texas winning this game, too, because I get big-time Red River rivalry vibes from it.
If Vanderbilt wins, they're a playoff lock. They're in. That's how that I think they have, off the top of my head, I know they have Tennessee left, but the schedule isn't – they've gone through the gauntlet, and they've shown week in and week out. If they can do that, I think they're going to be – the committee will love the story, but I think Texas is going to have that depth that there's too many weeks in the road for Vanderbilt to keep rising to the level. Eventually, that stumble is going to come.
Yeah, they just can't. They can't lose to Auburn and then Tennessee to end the year. That would be an intriguing thing. But again, if they beat Texas, yeah, I feel you, Fresh. They're pretty much of a lock here. All right, Fresh. Let's go to probably the most underrated rated game in college football this weekend. It's in the American. The Navy midshipmen are traveling to North Texas. Navy is 7-0 on the year. This is again, Navy can't control anything. We've talked about this before. They've won all their football games. Guys, I'm not telling you to put them in the top 10 here, but you could easily slide them in at 24. North Texas, 7-1 on the year, 3-1 in the American. This one is a huge matchup here, Fresh, between these two programs as well. Horvath has just been, for the last 2 years, this amazing quarterback for the midshipmen. Running the ball, they throw it a little bit more than maybe what we're used to, but they don't throw it a ton. He does have 93 pass attempts, so he's averaging over 10, 11, 12 pass attempts a game, which is, hey, golf clap for Navy to learn to throw the ball a little bit and not just run it all day long. And then you take a look at North Texas. Messemaker is one of the best stories, a 0-star recruit, and he has North Texas as top-tier team in the group of 5 right now. What do you got for Navy versus North Texas, Fresh?
Well, you kind of even buried the lead a little bit on the quarterback there. Not only is he a 0-star recruit, he already started in high school. And he walked on. I mean, he clicked on the offense, the Mean Green, they play well, but the last time they had a big game, they played USF, and USF boat raced them. What did North Texas learn from that experience? Because they had USF and Byron Brown come in. Everybody was there. They canceled class at noon. It was a blackout, and the whole place was rowdy. And it was 21-21, and then it became 63-28 or something like that pretty quickly. Where has their psyche of like, all right, now expectations, you have another team here, got to find a way to shut it down. You know that Navy's going to run the ball 85% of the time. Can you tackle? Are you prepared to be able to handle this adventure? Where are your eyes at as a linebacker or safety? Are you getting the pitch relationship? And are you guys man on man, locking it down, not letting anybody sort of skate back or get lost in the wash? You have to play this sound assignment football. And that's where teams like Army, Navy, and Air Force, they're good. It's because teams get lazy, they get tired, they get bored, and then they break a 67-yard touchdown because their keys are wrong. They're getting tired, like, oh, I've been faked. This is not that play. And then, boom, they hit you. You have to be set, ready to go for the full 60 minutes, locked in mentally and physically, and be able to execute every single play. This team for Navy, they're loaded, and obviously they've expanded up the passing game the past couple of years, letting Horvath throw a little bit more, just to offer that extra little diversity that keeps everyone off the line of scrimmage, keeps them from stacking the box. He's a beast. They win this football game. It keeps them in, probably should be in the top 25 after that, but really keeps them that American Conference, title race with USF in that conversation as well with Memphis, and an outside chance of making the playoff. This execute, dominate, go on the road, mentally be focused, ready to play football. Don't buy into the emotions of being there in North Texas. I think Navy wins this one comfortably. because they're just a team they're disciplined, they execute well, and they have no major vices. They know who they are and they play by their standard. Run the football, make your throws when you have to. Horvath protects the ball, but he's a machine. He can do anything. And then they help the defense out by playing their way. Navy's gonna be disciplined. Navy's gonna have the fire. North Texas is a nice story, but now that the schedule is starting to show up, and I think they're going to withstand it. Give me the midshipmen in a nice afternoon there on Saturday.
Yeah, anchors away here, Fresh, because I did check real quick. The coaches poll, which is only slightly better than the AP poll, because I don't think coaches have any time to really watch as much games as they need to with doing this stuff. Navy's schedule for the remainder is a gauntlet. Like, they're entering in their toughest part. North Texas this week. Next week, they're playing Notre Dame. They get South Florida in Annapolis, November 15th. And then on Thanksgiving weekend, they got to travel to Memphis to end the season in the American. We're going to know a lot about Navy, but it starts week 1 right now. I expect them to lose in South Bend next week. They're going to take their first L when they face Notre Dame. But that means they're still going to be in it for the American Conference here. Start with Navy and North Texas. Horvath, was it you last year? Was it Horvath the one that you're screaming should be in New York for the Heisman?
No, that was the Army quarterback. That was
Right.
Army had a machine last year, but both of them are very, very talented.
Yeah, and it's setting up for this great Army-Navy game, which it's something I look forward to every single year that me and you get to do. So make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss out on that preview. It's one of our best ones of the year. But this Navy team, I have a feeling we're going to be talking a little bit more Navy as they come through, especially if they get a win on Saturday. I expect them to get a win because the triple option is such a difficult offense to prepare for. North Texas, their run defense is at the bottom of the American. They're allowing 190 yards on the ground that game. I think Navy and the midshipmen are going to eat them alive on that piece. Fast game, but again, I'm going midshipmen, going 8-0 in the South Bend.
Yeah, I mean, this game, if North Texas pulls it off, then the AP voters are like, well, look, we were right. There's a reason why we didn't vote put them in because they're going to have 2 losses within the next 2 weeks. But this is a chance right now for Navy. Just keep quiet. Just do your job. Maintain. Speed ahead. Straightforward. Don't be deterred. The discipline of being in the Navy and the military academies is going to pay off on these big road trips they have coming up down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm with you, Fresh. I think we should just completely get rid of the AP polls. I cannot stand them this year. I think they're just awful.
Well, there are a lot of voters who are idiots, but it's there for this exact discussion, what we're doing right now.
And this is why they should be giving us an AP vote. So we need to listen. If you watch this video, hashtag Fresh and Haps' AP vote. We need to start a grassroots movement to get me and you an AP vote.
Well, I mean, we're more qualified than a couple other people, that's for sure.
Listen, if we have an AP vote, I'm all about us putting our AP ballot on video and our whole discussion on why we rank teams of where we rank them.
And my rankings are already on spinnablesports.com every single week. So if you want to see theirs, you can find them there. But that's we'll happily broadcast it.
See how I set you up there to plug your own stuff on spinnablesports.com?
It's a great place to visit, everybody.
Yeah. All right, Fresh, let's go to another interesting game. This one's in the ACC. The Miami Hurricanes, 6-1, coming off that loss there 2 weeks ago already now?
2 weeks ago. Yeah, the hideous camouflage uniforms this past week, but
that's right.
The Louisville loss was
2 weeks ago. And how time flies when you're having fun. SMU, though, lost last week. They're 5-3, 3-1 in the ACC right now here. Miami is a 12.5-point favorite in this game. Over-under set at 50.5 here, Fresh. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen with SMU. Kevin Jennings has played up in big-time games. That's the one positive thing I can say about SMU is that when it goes up against a team like they did, and I say big-time games in the eyes of the media as in eyes of TV viewers, okay? So Clemson, we all know that they're a current resident of Fraudville, but they put that up as a ACC title rematch here, and Kevin Jennings balled out in that one. So I don't know. What Carson Beck are we going to get in Texas? Which SMU team are we going to get in Texas?
Well, this is the first Hurricane game outside of the state of Florida this season.
That's weird.
The first road trip was to Tallahassee. This is the second one. So this is an experience of how this team handles. But I think the Louisville loss has them woken up, and they will rebound very, very strongly. SMU is starting to show that they're not a team of destiny like they were last year. They aren't executing offensive and defensive line like they were last year. The receivers they're not getting the same pop in the offensive specialized players, especially Rashard Smith, or running back. I know they replaced him, but Smith was a different animal that made the offense go with Jennings. Defensively, you haven't seen the pop or the growth. And Rhett Lashley, there might be some pressure on him because he's quietly a name out there who might move on, even though he made this is the irony of the whole thing. He yapped about the SEC and yapped about other conferences. He has strong ties to Auburn. He has strong ties to Arkansas. He might get paid to go coach somewhere else. Yes, SMU has tons of money, but they're still the fourth best team in Texas in terms of people's dollar amount and thinking. Like, it's their SMU. They're more known for being the Pony Express than they are for actually being a legit powerhouse football team consistently. And at some point, that's going to kick in if you can't win consistently. So where's Rhett's mind? Is he thinking about other jobs? Is he coaching for the team? Is the team playing hard? This Hurricane team knows that they're probably a playoff lock, but they have to really regain the voters and the committee's trust. Because that loss to Louisville they look rough. I think they put the hammer down. This game could get ugly early. There's blood in the water, and Miami needs some big wins to really help their schedule. They have to go all out.
Yeah. I want to see Carson Beck in this game. Again, I think you make a great point where you're saying that this is the first time Miami is traveling outside the state of Florida, and Carson Beck has looked incredible at certain times this year. He looked exactly like at the beginning of last season. There was talk of him being a Heisman front runner, possibly a number 1 overall draft pick. Okay. Year happened. Sid from Ice Age showed up. This year, we saw the top pick again talent. That talent came out against Louisville. Sid the Sloth from Ice Age showed up again. All right. Yeah. What Carson Beck are we going to get? And Miami fans are kind of getting to ride that fun little roller coaster of the Carson Beck experience. They got to figure out a way between now and the end of the season. What happens when you go into a playoff game and you get the down Carson Beck? Are you able to find a way to adjust your game plan, adjust your playing style to negate the negative Carson Beck experience? Are you able to run the football dominantly in a football game? That's something that we should probably look for in a game against SMU. And again, with SMU, I really like what SMU has done these last couple of years. A couple of years ago, we told people early on, we understood the sheer amount of revenue that SMU generates, the sheer amount of money that is tied to that program, the amount of donors they have. We knew coming from a mile away that they were going to join a P4 conference. We didn't know if it was going to be the Pac-12 before it folded, whether they're going into the Big 12, whether they're going in the wound up into the ACC. But we knew that they were going somewhere because of the money that's there. I got to give them credit. They had their run last year, exceeding expectations for everybody. And I think 5-3, even if they're 5-4 after this game, I think it shows the positive pace that SMU is going into and building at there. I think all of that would be thrown 2 years back, if not 3 years back, if Rhett leaves for another one of these programs. I hope he doesn't, because watching them, I've enjoyed watching Jennings. So it kind of stinks to see them take 2 steps forwards and take 3 steps back. And it's not even a Paul Abdul song, because opposite are attracting in this one here, Fresh. So I don't know. I got Miami winning this game. They're going into Dallas, Texas, and they're coming out with a W. But I still want to see more from the Hurricanes.
Well, I think the Hurricanes know that loss to Louisville stunk, and really the impressions they had. They have to reset themselves. And last week for Stanford, it was Stanford. They have to come out with a name, well, I'm going to say more of a name, but a better team on their schedule and put something down. So I could see them really, this game could get ugly very, very quick.
Yeah. All right, Fresh, let's go to the cocktail party. This is a 3:30 kickoff. You will be on location right now, Georgia, 7.5-point favorite in the game. It's a neutral site game. This game is played here in Jacksonville, Florida. Over-under is set at 50.5. We called it, you had it probably before anyone else, that the Florida Gators were going to fire Billy Napier on the bye week between the Mississippi State game and the cocktail party. I'm curious, what Florida team do we get? Do we get a motivated, hungry Florida team that is going to try to do everything in their power to upset Georgia? Or are we going to get a shell of the Gator team and to prove that Florida is, I do not consider Florida even close to a national power anymore, but I think the rest of the world might be doing that if Georgia goes into Jacksonville and beats the crap out of the Gators.
Well, first off, I live by the fat mentality in terms of hatred. Florida, Auburn, Tennessee. So this game means a lot to me. And a lot of people who live in South Georgia and in North Florida, or even Florida in general, who will, especially went through the early 90s, the Spur years, and all the beatdowns. This is the game that you make sure that you are focused on. But you also know that sometimes the team that's supposed to win doesn't always win. Those crazy things happen. Not recently, but last year was I think a wake up call that anything can happen. You have to be on your P's and Q's and show up to play football at all times. DJ Lagway left that game last year, and I touchdown pass early, was looking good. He has now vowed revenge in the offseason about this game means something he's going to come out and put up. And, not to use exact words, but he is focused on beating Georgia and putting on a show. Having this 2-week bye week, with no longer having Billy Napier calling plays, allows this offense to be potentially volatile because Wilson and the rest of the receiving corps, there's some talent there. Ball at running back, there's some talent there. They can come out here and spread it out and start chucking the ball down the field and really putting on a show because it's not much of a precedent. Yes, some of the guys on staff have called plays in the past in their previous careers, but you have no idea after 2 weeks what they're going to do. They're a desperate football team. Nobody wants anything more than for Florida to come in and beat Georgia and basically ruin Georgia's season. And it could technically effectively end it as well, depending how the rest of the year plays out. So they have nothing to lose. Their coaches got fired. They're going to come out and let everything hang loose. They have a defense that's played really well all year. We saw what they did in Miami. We've seen what they've done in other games where they played pretty well. It's usually been the offense that has been the hit or miss. They played well versus LSU, but the 5 picks from DJ Lagway kind of was the reason why they lost the ball game. So there's a lot hanging in the balance, and I got a feeling with Florida having nothing to lose. And yes, I'm a fan of the favorite team here, but they have, in grand scheme of things, they can come out and do whatever they want. If they lose 49-0, and people are like, yeah, that's okay, whatever. The coach just got fired. They've shown that the reason why. Or they come out, it's like, you know what? They expect us to lose 49-0. Let's just go out there and just play loose. There's no pressure on us whatsoever. We aren't playing to save his job anymore because he's gone. So let's just let it loose, play fast, and let the chips fall where they may at the end of the ball game. I expect Florida to run some trick plays. I expect them to have some unusual formations. You're gonna see stuff that you have not seen. And considering Georgia's pass rush has been less than stellar, their sack numbers are low, but they've upped the QB hurry statistic, but they aren't getting home on the quarterbacks much. The secondary has been susceptible for almost the entire season, and maybe even late last year. So if you're Florida, your offensive line gives you a little time. You can throw the ball against secondary, avoid the linebackers in the middle of the field. You should have some success. So that's what it comes down to. It the options are there for Florida to really be competitive, aggressive, strike while they have the chance. On the other side, Georgia's defense in the first half, you got to start faster. Yes, they've had a great second half in the fourth quarter against Ole Miss. They shut out Alabama in the second half. They shut out Auburn in the second half. They only held them to 13 yards and whatever. That defense has got to start early. They can't wait till the second half to get going because the offense has been playing at a high level, but you can't burn both ends of the night the entire time. You need to find ways to start faster, steal momentum, and keep that Florida offense from really building it. If you come out here as defense, if you're Georgia and Glenn Schumann and Kirby in that bye week, you get a couple of quick 3-and-outs like you've been doing in the second half of the ball game, your offense are scoring, then that will for Florida will fade. If you allow them to hang around, that's when they start building momentum. Like we can play, we can win this ball game. You let that we got nothing to lose mentality, start taking a little more risks or taking some more shots, then you're in a painful situation. This is most important for this defense to come out from Georgia and shut it down that first quarter. End all hope and let the offense score touchdowns and put that game in a point where it leads to some of those Florida players potentially quitting. Because if you let them hang around, they're going to start taking more chances. It's going to get more unusual. Things are going to start popping. And then you are in a dire of, oh no, here we are. Just like last year. Last year was a perfect example. You gave Florida momentum early. You allowed them to build that confidence. And the interceptions kept helping steamroll to a point where you have a football game. Yes, that score was a 20-point difference, but that was all in the fourth quarter. And it was a pick six and everything sort of layered on very late. It wasn't a dominant Georgia effort. If Georgia's defense can come out and set the tone early, it allows that Florida team to be put in a perilous situation, and then maybe they've got to start laying it down. But if you allow them to hang around, that offense starts having success, DJ Lagway starts having success, the crowd is in it, the offense is in it, and things can maybe get a little more dicey than they should be. So Gunner and the offense have been efficient. They've been getting the job done. They've been scoring points. They've been throwing it, been running it. Gunner's been doing very well. Offensive line, for being a mix and match and being a mash unit, has played much better as of late. But we're still waiting for that full football game from this entire team. Not just the offense playing great and the defense lacking up. We need a full 60-minute effort from Kirby coming into this ball game because you had this one. Mississippi State has looked much more improved, even though the record doesn't show it. Then you got Texas. You have to finish your season right now. Right now, there's no guaranteed SEC a playoff spot, and anything can happen. So you cannot afford another little loss. You've got to find ways to keep moving you through and growing and getting better. Yes, it's a young football team, but they got to start executing for a full 60 minutes. Coaching wise, Georgia has the advantage, but the unknown in the rivalry comes down to Florida's advantage in that perspective. All in all, I think Georgia wins, but this game will be another. It really depends on how that Georgia defense starts in the first half, whether this will be a runaway steamroller or if it will be a nail biter in the fourth quarter because you're letting the Gators hang around. I expect DJ Lagway to play focused and locked in, but he will throw you the ball a couple times if you get some pressure. Which will the Georgia defense show up on Saturday in the cocktail party? That is the biggest question of all. Can the Georgia defense rise back to Kirby standard and make plays, get off the field, or are we going to be in for another shootout barn burner through the four quarters? In the end, dogs win. But this is going to tell us a lot about this Georgia football team and if they've gotten themselves coached up and they've gotten themselves improved during the bye week and are ready for the stretch run down the season.
Every time I hear Florida fans talk or talking heads talk about Florida and whether or not they're going to be competitive, I feel like Brad Pitt in Moneyball. We're sitting around with the scouts and he's just going, because that's all it is to me. Listen, where's Big Noon at? Is Big Noon in Columbus?
Yep.
So Urban Meyer ain't walking through that door. Old man Steve Spurrier with his throw it all around the field and good old boy, he's 80 years old. I don't think he would make it onto the field. Dan Mullen ain't walking out there. He's over in UNLV. Heck, listen, I don't even think Ron Zook is going to help you out in this one. Listen, Florida's a bad football team. They've been a high-quality football team in many of years. And again, Fresh, you follow with the fat theory. There's one school up north I can't stand more than anyone else, okay? Florida, Clemson, and a couple other programs are probably tied for second, but for a while, just because I have to interact with more Florida fans, there's about 25% of Florida fans that are very lovely people and very nice and not annoying as all get out. The other 3 out of 4 of them are annoying and you can't ever stand to talk football with them. Lane Kiffin ain't coming to Florida. Not going to happen. Florida, your expectations are way too high. You're thinking that you're going to be great. And again, if I'm going to put out there, if Georgia loses this game, it should be an embarrassment to them. Like, it should be a stain on the history of Georgia. This would be up there with as bad as I would feel. Because, again, I was irate last Thanksgiving for about 3.5 weeks after the Buckeyes lost to the Wolverines. Like, I was not in a good place. I was not in a good mood, and I was annoyed because it was, to me, one of the worst stains of my time as a Buckeyes fan. I would put it to this level because here's the thing. In my eyes, Georgia should roll this team. They should beat them down to the inch of their life. This Florida team, like, Georgia should beat them so bad that this Florida team quits. Their fans quit on the game. They leave the stadium at halftime. And the problem is that they're going to leave the stadium, have to figure out a way to get out of that parking lot. Since they got rid of the landing, there's not a lot of establishments downtown anymore for Florida fans to go drown their sorrow. So they're going to be sitting there in RV City or on their boat or in their car, just finding empty Busch Light cans in the back of the truck bed as they're trying to drown their sorrows after being beat to the inch of their life that Georgia should do. With that being said, when I do prep work for a game, I look at both teams and I say, okay, make a case for why this team can win this football game. And in my mind, whichever case is stronger, that's who I go with. And I'm biased at times. I'm a human being. I know that as well. Only thing I can think of is the transfer portal. And players on Florida going, I'm not going to be here in Gainesville in 26. So I got a prime opponent to go against. I got to go put my best tape on there against Georgia. And I got to play my heart out just so I can get to a place like Alabama. I could get to a place like Texas, a place that will give me a great NIL money. Because I know I'm not going to be in Gainesville next year. Deuces, I'm out. That's the only way I could see Florida winning. Again, I'm going this Georgia big. I'm saying 21-point big, 3 touchdown big. That's how little I think of the Florida Gators this year.
Well, and that comes down to, can the Georgia defense set the tone early? You can take because if you give them momentum, Florida will hang around, to your point about the whole NIL, the portal and how you can showcase yourself, and just also beating your rival and playing more like a, hey, we love you, Napier, we'll play for you. Sorry for getting fired, it's our fault. But Georgia defense is going to show up and set the tone early. that if they let Florida hang around, it becomes a shootout, and then that's where all bets are off.
Right, because if this game gets blown out even more, my wife is going to make me help her put up Christmas decorations on November 1st. Yeah.
Good luck
Let's
with
make
that.
it, yeah, but seriously, hopefully it's competitive so I don't have to do it. But I just got a feeling I'm going to have a Christmas tree up in my living room by the end of this game. All right, Fresh, let's go to one of, I would say underrated because this is old school Pac-12 after dark. It's at 10:15 in Utah, in Salt Lake City. 7-1. And again, this team is an interception away from being 8-0. The 7-1 Cincinnati Bearcats travel to face the Utah Utes. They're 6-2 on the year here. Fresh, I gotta admit, we have not respected Cincinnati enough this year and put enough respect on them. This is a really good football team. I don't necessarily know if they're great yet. I think this would be a proving ground to us is that maybe Cincinnati is the best program in the Big 12 because I don't think we know who the best program is in the Big 12. I love that and I hate that at this point in the year because I love it because it'll make the Big 12 really watchable for the remainder of the year. I hate it because we want to start talking about playoff matchups and whether or not these teams in. I still see an avenue where the Big 12 gets two teams into this playoff. I really do.
I think they're a one playoff bid.
BYU, Cincinnati, Texas Tech. I think you could get two teams in on that list.
We'll see how it goes. I think they're going to knock. Yeah, I think they're going to beat each other up. That's going to be a problem. They're one of them's going to trip, and that's where we come to this ball game. So Cincinnati, it's a hostile trip to Utah, and this is basically Utah's last hurrah. We had the whole thing about when they played Texas Tech. They played for 3 quarters great. In the fourth quarter, they got roasted. And then they had a competitive game with BYU, and they couldn't finish it. This is your last hurrah, Utah. Your season technically is all intents and purposes over if you lose this ball game. You're at home, and Rice Eccles has kind of looked. Obviously, you've had a little more of a dent in that recently, but you have a chance to come in here, play Utah football, be tough, fight back against Cincinnati, and pull up an upset, and really reshape the Big 12 and the national championship college football playoff landscape. If not, it kind of just the whimper of Kyle Whittingham's career at Utah continues to just fade away. That last big win for Utah, and this might be the ball game. This is a trip. I don't think Cincinnati really had a hostile road experience outside of the opener when they played in Kansas City versus Nebraska, which is basically Nebraska home game. This is going to really be a real test for Brandon Sorsby and the entire Cincinnati offense of having to go out there into Utah at night with pressure now. Because now, like you mentioned, people have really paid too much attention today, but you're late October. We're about to get the first college football playoff rankings coming out here soon. You need to be locked in. If people are putting an eye to the Bearcat football team, I'm taking Utah in this game just because I'm looking at the emotional, like this is the last ditch effort. If Cincinnati wins it, hey, I have mad respect. They're highly ranked in my top 25. I just think this game feels like Utah at home, basically putting all the chips in the middle of the table. Can Kyle Whittingham coach it one more time to pull off a big upset and reshape the Big 12 race? That's where I'm going with Utah. I just have a feeling about the Utes in this ballgame, and I'm not going to go bet against Kyle Whittingham.
Brendan Sorsby has thrown 1 interception on the year. That was week 1 against Nebraska when they were trying to come back late in that game. That's where the interception happened. He's taken 2 sacks all year long. You take a look at Cincinnati here, Fresh. Evan Pryor, Ohio State transfer. Tawee Walker, Oklahoma, Wisconsin transfer. Sorsby has been lights out in this program here. And I just have a hard time when I look through Cincinnati and I look at all of their program. I don't know if this kid is a main star because, again, I got to admit, I haven't paid a ton of interest to Cincinnati football, but now you got my attention, so now I'm going to be locked in on them. A guy by the name of Matthew McDoom. Talk about, and he's a cornerback. Talk about McDoom Island. I don't know if this kid is some scrub or anything else like that, but Matthew McDoom, he's got 25 tackles on the year in interception, and he took that interception 100 yards to the house. That's a pretty awesome name. So, again, I think Utah's still a good football team. I just think that magic that we saw years ago with the Utes is kind of rubbed off and it's not as magical anymore. I don't necessarily know if Rice Eccles is that magical anymore. I'm going against the home team in this one. I'm going Bearcats.
Like I said, this is the last route for Utah. I'm leaning toward Whittingham, but if this is done, The way the Big 12 is sort of reshaping with NIL and with movement, and Willingham potentially retiring this year or next. He hasn't really officially which it's going to be. You're kind of like, all right, it's more of a, oh, that's right. They aren't as good with it. We see the logo, like they must be really good. She's like, this is that last effort to really keep that logo as a memory. And if you lose another big game, it's like, all right, well, okay, it's Utah. And you kind of move on. So this is that program defining, like legacy defining game here for Whittingham, most importantly, where can you get the boys to buck up and give them another big dub at home to keep the season going and pull off an upset?
Yeah, because if they beat Cincinnati, like the pathway to Utah to gain 10 wins, like Utah could ease, if they beat Cincinnati, they go to Waco to play Baylor in 2 weeks. They have a bye next week. And then they get K-State at home and finish the season on a Friday night on Thanksgiving weekend against Kansas. That's not a murderer's row. It's not easy, but it's not murderer's row. You can get, if Utah wins this game, I see 10 wins in their future. And I don't care who you play. I don't care what your schedule is, or if you have 10 wins in a Power Four conference, like you had a great year. You're a good football team.
Yeah, good football team. So this is that statement you've got to show up here. Can the guys put one together? Can Dampier lead that offense consistently for the Utes? We'll find out.
Yeah, because Cincinnati, this game, another week off next week. Arizona, sneaky game for them, but it sets up November 22nd. BYU in Cincinnati, though. That would be a huge game.
That might be the game where one of them could be knocked out, but that's your playoff hopes are on the line. So de facto quarterfinal.
Right. So it's that one thing. Texas Tech and BYU plays Texas Tech this weekend. One of those things. All right. So Cincinnati loses to Utah. Texas Tech beats BYU, but BYU loses to Cincinnati. That weird three-way situation where one of them gets left out of the Big 12 title game and has a very nice record. And then you sit there and go, well, that's how I see the Big 12 getting 2 spots, a situation like that.
They're going to need some help, but this is every game matters. It means you got to show up for Cincinnati to keep that dream alive. You lose this game, people aren't going to believe in you as much. You'll have to win your way in the rest of the title game.
Yeah, I want to see Cincinnati do well, though. I like that a lot. All right, Fresh, let's go to our quick ones here real quick. You want to go down to Sunflower State, you want to go out west?
I'm going to stay out there in the Big 12. Texas Tech at Kansas State. Kansas State kind of lying the ways, death taxes, and beating Kansas is what they do, coming off a huge dominant effort. Obviously, they're Texas Tech soured stuff that lost 2 weeks ago. And K-State pull off an upset. We'll find out a lot about your Texas Tech in this ball game on the road to a hostile environment that has some positive vibes for the Wildcats. In the end, I think Texas Tech wins, but we're going to find more about this team now going on the road to a hostile environment and how they respond on Saturday afternoon. The quick picks. I think you got a couple lined up.
Yep, go to the state of Tennessee here. Oklahoma, it's a payback game because last year Tennessee loses in Norman, Oklahoma. I think this is an elimination game. Whichever team, Oklahoma going to Tennessee. Yeah. Tennessee won last year in Norman. And I think that this game right here is an elimination game for one of these teams. Their playoff hopes are gone. They're dead. They're out of it. I really still look at Oklahoma and said, yeah, nice run. I don't feel like you're a playoff team anymore. I think that ship has sailed. Again, Tennessee, I still don't love them, but I love this football game because I think these two programs are a mirror image of each other. I think that they have some interesting things because both great defenses. Tennessee's 3.5-point favorite, so Vegas knows 3 points is home field advantage. That tells me this is even. Give me the Volunteers in this. I think that Oklahoma's going to start a little slide going forward.
Yeah, John Mateer's Heisman campaign came to a screeching halt. If he wants to get them back on the board, he's going to get them going again.
All right, Fresh, go out to the West Coast.
Going out to Pac-12 after dark, a.k.a. ACC after dark. At Cal, Virginia has 3 overtime wins. Like, they are cardiac calves. They are living by the – and can they keep the momentum going? Now you got your 3rd overtime win. Now you're traveling to Cal. This would be a little sneaky. Like, you're still in the ACC race. Things are alive. Bend and break that the Cavs have. Big game on the road. They got to be focused going out to Cal. That'll be a fun one to watch late on Saturday night.
Who are you going with in that one? You like UVA in that one? Cal's a good football team, though.
I'm going to take Virginia. I think that if you survive those 3 overtime games, kind of gives you like, okay, we can do this. You have that confidence boost. Like, we know we can finish a ball game. It's a long trip, though, but I think Virginia finds another way to keep it going.
Yeah. Fresh, I'm going to go over into the Big Ten. a West Coast team starting to come east. USC is going to Lincoln, Nebraska. We forget Nebraska as kind of fraudulent as it is. They are a 6-2 team, 3-2 in the Big Ten. Both of their losses are conference losses. You say they've lost to the Wolverines this year. They've also lost to the Golden Gophers in an ugly game. But then you take a look at USC. Tight loss to Illinois. Tight loss to Notre Dame in a really good football game. I think this is another one of those moments where we're going to learn quite a bit about this USC Trojan team. I think they're going to go into Lincoln, Nebraska and beat up, I think Matt Rule may be looking at that Penn State job and saying that's a very attractive thing.
Matt Rule he has a job somewhere in Fraudville. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but Matt Rule has a job somewhere in Fraudville, along with Nebraska football in the current state. I think USC puts a boost to him. Why would Penn State want Matt Rule? That right there just blows my mind, because what has he actually done? But this game could get ugly really fast.
Yeah, he's living on his laurels from 5-10 years ago.
He's living on the Baylor stuff. Live on the Baylor and Temple.
Right. I think Jaden Maeva is going to just go off in this game. And Mekhi Lemon, maybe one of the best wide receivers, what I mean to say there. I think he's going to just put on a show on this one. All right, Fresh, it's pick time. What you got?
We're 5-7 on the year, thanks to SMU not covering at Wake. That was really pathetic. Desperate need of a win. So I'm taking UNLV to cover the -3.5 versus New Mexico. Dan Mullen taking on the Lobos. Maybe he's also looking to build his resume. Maybe a new job opens up. We'll see. But I'm taking UNLV to cover the 3.5 at home versus New Mexico on Saturday.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit, man. That's going to be a good one. And UNLV is a fun one to watch.
I mean, Dan Mullen can coach. I think he just doesn't like the recruiting part. So if he went to UNLV, you want to get back out there, get his feet wet, get some coaching, and he'll make a jump when the right job opens up. This is kind of like that offensive skill that team can keep pushing it down the field. And Saturday afternoon might be a chance for that to come out and showcase.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. That's week number 10 in the books. But, ladies and gentlemen, before you head out of here, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode. The calendar is turning to the month of November. And Fresh, that only means one thing. It means we got midweek action, baby. I am excited for the midweek. We're seeing the Raccoons run the scoreboards and the Kegs roll down the parking lot on a Tuesday night in Toledo. Nothing better than that. They're Fresh, living vicariously through those kids.
Well, I know we have this Conference USA. You have the Sun Belt playing their Tuesday, Wednesday night games right now in October, but it doesn't feel the same. Like November action, snow, crazy weather. It's games so right now, but give me Bowling Green versus Ball State with sleet coming down and 40 degrees.
Right.
It's a lot better than, even though JMU right now is playing Texas State, you're kind of like, okay, it's Tuesday night, but November action, something different about it, just the vibe altogether.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. So make sure you lock in, because we're going to be with you all season long, all the way through the playoffs. We'll be recapping, and make sure you tune in this Sunday. I got a feeling Fresh and I are going to beat the committee to the punch. I got a feeling we're going to probably drop our playoff field on this Sunday and our recap episode, Fresh.
I think we can do that. Give our top 12 as it stands in the first release. That's something where we're right there on the cusp. We have pretty good idea who the teams are. But this Saturday, anything can happen. I might change it. That's why we keep doing it week to week.
Yeah, so make sure you guys lock in for that one. And it's our first step into Fresh and I getting an AP vote, because we rightfully deserve that. We watch more college football than most of those voters there. But, all right, Fresh, that's week number 10 in the books. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Make sure you're checking out SpinnableSports.com. Yep, that's SpinnableSports.com. Like, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Leave us that 5-star review, because you guys know Fresh and I, we are those 2 5-star prospects. Make sure you engage with us on social media. Interact with us. We're active over there on the X. We're active all over the place. Leave us comments down below. We'll respond to you. We'll talk some football with you. You like what we say. You think we're crazy. We're full of it. We probably are. Both of our eyes are brown. So we got that. It's another great season here, Fresh. November is always a whole lot of fun. And it caps it off, like I said, one of our favorite previews to do, early December, Army-Navy game. Doesn't get much any better than that preview. So we're still a month away from that, luckily. Don't want to go too fast. But yeah, we're finally here. Halloween weekend. Let's go, Fresh.
And the games start meeting a lot more now. Who's ready to buck up and rise to the challenge, and who's going to say pretender and contender time? Be remembered in November is what they say, and we got that coming on your way. So hit us up, SpinnableSports.com. Spinnable Sports YouTube channel. Hit us up on Twitter and X, whatever you want to call it. Subscribe, spread the word. Get us out there momentum to get our AP vote. And until next time, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.